are expected to deteriorate Friday afternoon with the heaviest snow, strongest winds, and potential life-threatening conditions expected Friday night through Saturday.
There's different types of screws.
Well, the first screw didn't work out too well because
There was nothing to screw it into.
he was supposed to hold the archway above the great Emperor Thesis. Unfortunately, the screw failed and it killed Thesis.
Was it Hypo?
It was Hypo Thesis. Hypo Thesis, yeah. And the guy who invented the screw was Carl, I think.
Right.
I don't think he had a last name because he was an orphan. You know, we have to invent some of our own tools.
Right. Sometimes it's just kind of a jerry rig, right? You just take some duct tape and put a few things together.
Yeah, well, one time I was doing a plumbing job and the water just wouldn't stop flowing out of the tap. So then I had to jury rig a seal around the bathroom door.
Right.
So all the water stayed in there.
In the bathroom.
It filled up and I was able to contain the water from damming.
What happened when it got to the top?
I knew that if I didn't do something,
It would explode.
yeah, it would explode.
Because that's happened.
But I usually get out of there by then. I went to the other side, to the exterior of the home, and drilled a hole through the wall. Water flowed out of the house and caused a flood down into the rear yard of the ambassador to Zimbabwe. The ambassador to Zimbabwe brought home his friend from Zimbabwe. And he panicked because he saw a house with water squirting out the wall.
Right.
And he'd never seen so much water in his life. But he thought that the houses in Canada just produce water.
Like, what was his name, by the way?
Theodore Tubb, the guy from Zimbabwe. Yeah, his name was Zoo. It's awfully cold in this house.
It is, I know.
The furnace isn't running.
Oh, we can't turn it on.
We gotta install the thermostat. You know who invented the first thermostat? Well, he invented it and then he only would rent them.
Oh, you'd only rent them out.
He thought he would never sell them because he wanted to always have the idea.
Right.
So he rented it and he encased them in metal so no one could see how it worked. His thermostat took up a whole room. There was a rodent that had to run in a wheel, and if it got too hot, that meant it was probably too hot in the house. So then it had to stop running.
Because it was getting too hot.
And when it stopped running, that would allow a door to open.
Right.
Cold air would come
in.
And then when the rats started running again, the window would close. And this was in lower Mesopotamia, where it was pretty hot. However, they never needed it to be warm. They just needed good ventilation.
Yeah.
The rats would, they only lived for about a year.
Right.
So he would come back and repair his thermostat by putting a new rat in there.
And what did he do with the old rat?
He just gave it a little funeral. But each one was named after a number.
Like, for example?
Well, there was number 4, and there was number 10. He was trying to communicate with the future.
He was trying to communicate with the future.
And everyone thought he was an idiot.
His name?
Cryptoplasma.
He had a first name for a last name.
I don't think people should get first names as last names because I always get them mixed up.
Like John Glenn. But what about the other way around? Like Glenn John?
That happened once, I think.
What?
Well, there was a space program in Czechoslovakia.
Right.
And they had John Glenn and Glenn John. They sent them both up at the same time.
Right.
And they never knew who they were talking to.
Right.
They never got them back.
And now for something completely different.
When I got myself glued inside the basement of a house, and I was stuck, like one of those mouses on a mouse. I survived by taking a screwdriver with string, and I threw it and punctured a bag full of cat food, and dragged the food towards me. It was Wild Horizon, all organic chicken and pheasant.
Yeah, pheasant's pretty hard to get.
I think that was just a small additive. It's mostly chicken. Tasted like chicken to me, and the cat kept me company. He slept on my head. Listen.
Potential life-threatening conditions expected Friday night through Saturday.
But the people were gone on a mission.
And when they came back, what happened?
They were angry because I ruined the linoleum.
Right.
And their cat had put on weight because it had free access to all the food. The cat couldn't even move anymore. His paws were sticking out of it like some sort of pufferfish.
Right.
It was quite remarkable. Well, I thought they were kind of out of line to get angry at me because I was just trying to fix their fuse. And once I had the fuse fixed,
That's when the bag exploded?
It did burn.
Yeah,
the fuse ignited. I should have put a higher wattage breaker in there. I didn't want to go to the hardware store, so I put in what I had, which was a dime. Dimes will work. And the current will go through that, boy, you should see. I just did it just to keep things running. And besides, I wanted to make some toast. And then there was a spark like you wouldn't believe. I think I saw my own skeleton in a mirror. I was holding a tube of constructed adhesive, and it electrocuted right through me, and it exploded. And all the
adhesive got there,
And that's how I ended up glued to the floor. Well, this was one of my first first jobs, too.
Right.
I hadn't been in the handyman business too long.
Right.
That's when I passed out.
And then you woke up again.
Yeah, and it was the ambassador of Zimbabwe standing above me.
Right.
That's when the friend from Zimbabwe, who was a friend with the ambassador of Zimbabwe, he was talking to me because he thought I was unconscious. It was a tradition from his village to speak to people when they're in a coma. And that will revive them.
Oh, I see.
I eventually woke up and I remembered the story about his ancient relative who invented the screw.
That ties us all together.
The screw that didn't work and the brick fell down
The brick
and
fell.
almost killed the emperor. Hypo Thesis, yeah, he was almost killed.
He was almost killed.
Yeah.
What happened to Hypo Thesis anyways?
Well, you see, when the brick fell, it fell on a plank that his throne was sitting on, and it had a fulcrum effect. It shot and catapulted Thesis right out into this Colosseum where he was watching the Alliance.
Oh, yeah.
And then Thesis was a power play for the Christians because they
Right.
got Thesis all of a sudden.
Right.
But he was useless.
Right.
He was an emperor, and they immediately pounced on him and tore him to shreds.
Right.
Now, the guy who invented the screw, he thought he'd get in trouble. So he fled, and he left his invention and never claimed it because he didn't want anyone to know that it was his fault.
It was a failure of his invention that led to the death of Hypo Thesis.
Yeah, it led to the death of Hypo Thesis. And that's what this guy told me. Yeah, the ambassador, he went to get help at a hospital. Then he was also an alcoholic, and he went to a bar and never came back.
And he's still missing to this day?
Yeah, he's still missing this day.
Yeah.
They think he went to New Orleans because he thought he had found a new formula for Jack Daniels. Well, that's the theory. Well, he never returned. And
But what happened to the guy from Zimbabwe?
Oh, well, he was telling me all this story, right? And then the water started squirting out the hole.
Right.
And he became quite excited because he'd never seen a
Right,
house where
right,
there's hole,
right.
water.
Produce holes. Yeah.
He didn't know I had actually drilled the hole. Oh, he
Right.
thought, no, he did see me drilling the hole. And he thought I was one of those guys in his country who would find water
Oh,
in
right.
the arid areas of the...
Oh, so he thought you were drilling for water.
He thought I was looking
Drilling
for
for
water.
water,
And he thought I
right.
found water.
Right.
And he wanted me to go back with him to his village and help him find water to dig a new well for his village.
Right.
Of course, I agreed. So I was out there for a few days.
Right.
And of course, we drank heavily. And then I fell into a ditch. And just by coincidence, there was water under the ditch.
Right.
Someone started digging and gave up.
So he thinks that you found water, but
He
really
thinks I
you
found
just
water.
lucked into
No,
it.
I just lucked into it.
You were kind of like a god to them.
I'm known as a competent handyman in the village in Zimbabwe.
Right. So how come you left?
I had a job to do and I had
Right.
to come back. I said I would install this thermostat, and I had gone missing for several months after the flooding of the bay. They thought I saved their house from imminent flooding.
Oh, I thought they were mad at you for the linoleum incident.
Well, they were pissed off about the linoleum because they had inherited that linoleum from their grandmother.
Right.
It used to be in their grandmother's kitchen.
They were more concerned about the linoleum
linoleum
than the
They
bathroom.
didn't care about
Oh,
really.
they don't care about it.
Because it was being renovated.
Right. Okay.
And
But they cared about the linoleum more than you.
yeah, well, that's how it is in the handyman business.
Right. Because no one gives a shit about that.
Especially when you don't do anything.
Right. So far, my first day on the job is better than your first day. What's that saying about the student surpassing the teacher?
The student will pass out on the teacher. Yes.
I thought it was surpass.
I only know the saying about the student passing out on the teacher because they go out drinking. Yeah, and they usually the student becomes an alcoholic.
All right.
Well, now I think it's time for lunch.
And potential life-threatening conditions expected Friday night through Saturday.
We have concluded our broadcast schedule for today. Good night.
Impacts. Heavy snow and blowing snow will cause dangerous conditions and will be a threat to life and property.